Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Knucklehead Podcast Network's Week 7 Pick'em Show. We're going to be going over all the games for Sunday and Monday, a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of betting, trying to give you all the info you need, and you can pick along with us and the other guys in our Pick'em crew. Um, we're getting a little bit better. Blaine had a good week last week. I came in second, so your boys got the top two spots in the picks last week. So kudos to us. My big upset of the week came through. My Dallas pick over the Jags came through in a big way. That kind of set me apart, helped me climb up the leaderboard. How about you, Blaine? What was the secret to your success last week? Because you got the lucky one with Miami. You're the only one that picked Miami over the Bears, and that was
I want to also point out that I actually missed the tiebreaker by 1 point.
okay.
I don't know if you noticed that.
I did not.
I had a I had a hell of a week.
Yeah, yeah. You had your best week of the season so far in picks. That's for sure.
The worst part about that is that now you're expected to repeat it.
Oh, that's okay. I'm trying to catch up. I had that week when my picks didn't go in, so I got 14 down. If I can somehow catch you guys by the end of the year, I'll be super happy with myself. Well, let's get right into it.
That goes for both of us, actually.
Okay, good. uh, let's go. Early game on Sunday. We have the second game of the London series. This is the Tennessee Titans coming off an embarrassing game. Going against the Chargers, who just went into Cleveland and pretty much just took them apart. You have the Tennessee offense looks horrible. They look like they can't get anything going. They've scored 12 or fewer points in the last four games, and they're giving up the sixth most points to fantasy running backs over the last few games. And now you have probably the best running back duo so far this season uh, in Melvin Gordon and Eckler. I think that this bodes badly for the Tennessee Titans. Blaine?
Yeah, the Chargers. I want to point out one thing about the Chargers. They've only lost two games. Guess who they were to? They were
Yeah,
to the
Kansas
Rams
City and the Rams. Yeah.
and the Rams. A combined 11-1 record. So that tells me what? Chargers are definitely for real. And this game is being played in London. I don't think that the time change is really going to affect the outcome of this game, being that the Titans, as you said, their offense is not doing anything. Their defense, their offensive line gave up 11 sacks to the Ravens last week. Mariota had 10 completions the whole game. He was 10 for 15 for 117 yards. 21-0. 21-0 loss. So the Titans offense is just they're mailing it in or whatever. They're just dead. On the other hand, defense has not given up 30 points to any team this season. So and the defense is still playing, but the Chargers, I like what's going on with the Chargers and the fact that they have a running game now that frees up Philip Rivers to make plays downfield. They had that win over who did they play? They played
Cleveland last week.
Who did they play?
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Pounded them.
And and Philip Rivers threw two touchdowns in the first half to Tyrell Williams. And he had some nice long completions, two back-to-back long completions. I see the Chargers in this game taking it over the Titans. The Chargers will go 5-2, and the Titans will go 3-4. Now the Chargers lead this series, by the way, 27-17, and they tied once.
That's one of those fun stats that
I throw that in.
So just to cap it off, make it official, I'm going with the Chargers and the Laffer. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to Chargers. I think Melvin Gordon, is going to run against this Titans. I think he's going to get his yards against the Titans defense, but I think Philip Rivers is going to shine again. That combination, I think, is going to be too much for the Titans.
Okay. And another stat that poor people in England, I believe the last 5 or 6 games have been decided by an average of 20 points. So they've been blowouts in England over and over and over again. And, the first game last week, the Seahawks completely buried the Raiders. And I think that they might see a similar game this week. So sorry, London.
I think the same thing. I think that I don't know if the Titans defense might be getting tired by now already.
And Malcolm Butler gives up the long ball to anyone that's facing him, and they have about 6 different receivers that can beat people one-on-one on the long ball. So that's going to be interesting to watch, especially for you fantasy owners. So here's a game. I'll let you start with this game. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about New England and Chicago?
New England and Chicago. All right. Okay, so we saw the game of New England and the Chiefs last week, of the shootout between Mahomes and Brady. Patriots go on the road this week. They go against the Bears. The Bears are at home. The Bears were surprisingly handled very easily. Well, not easily. They went into overtime. I guess, that's overstating it. But it was that Bears defense was shocked by the Miami offense. Now, is it because Brock Osweiler was filling in for Tannehill, and they had planned for Tannehill, and they were surprised by Osweiler? I find that hard to fathom. I just think that the Bears had a down game. But they did let Frank Gore get 101 yards on 15 carries, the 35-year-old Frank Gore. 380 yards, 3 TDs from Brock Osweiler. They did intercept him twice, though. But they didn't get a sack. And that's the first time, that they got no sacks through the first 5 weeks. First 5 games. And the Patriots have won 3 straight. They've got Edelman back on the field, and now they're putting Josh Gordon on the field, which is one of those situations where even if he doesn't do anything, you've got to account for him. And he can do something. I mean, so you got to account for him. I think Brady's hitting his stride. He's got his weapons back. I think that I'm going to go with the Patriots here to go 5-2 against the Bears going 3-3. The Bears at home. I was going back and forth on this game, but I think the Patriots are going to be able to squeak one out. I don't think Khalil. Well, even if Khalil Mack plays, he's not going to be 100%. He's still, having that ankle issue, and I think the Patriots pull it out. And you, sir?
I'm having a little bit of a coffee. Sorry there. Yeah, so the Bears in New England, I think that the definition of a trap game or looking past something is what the Bears did to the Dolphins. I think they're going to come home, get right. The defense is good, but it's much better at home. I think that the New England now has a ton of weapons, and they're starting to look like the old New England, except for the fact that they have some serious issues with team speed on defense. And the Bears have a plethora of speed. One of the things that the Patriots have had problems with is speedy backs out of the backfield catching passes. I think it's a big spot for Tariq Cohen using Taylor Gabriel. Matt Nagy coming over from Kansas City, he's kind of made Taylor Gabriel his Tyreek Light as far as how it's schemed and how they use the guy. I'm actually going to go out on a limb here. This is going to be my big upset of the week. I think that the Bears are going to come home, put it together, whereas the Patriots have had some high-energy primetime games, back-to-back games they had to win. Then they had the shootout with Mahomes. Now that they're coming into Soldier Field, I think that this is the perfect spot for a home Bears team to snag a win from a playoff team. So officially, I am going Bears.
You're going Bears. I'm going Patriots. Patriots lead the series by 9-4. Overall,
yeah. Not when it mattered. Not in '85 Super Bowl.
Okay. We're going in the way back machine. Okay. This is the first one we differ on. We're differing earlier. So you have the Bears, I have the Patriots.
All right. Sounds good. So next we go to a game that I will not be watching, but I'll check on the the scores once in a while because sometimes the Buffalo Bills have come up with some really interesting games. Their offense is the worst offense in NFL history through the first 6 games of the season, according to Pro Football Outsiders. They are bad. Right now, Vegas has the Colts a 7.5 point favorite at home. And when you're a 7.5 dog to the Colts, something's not going right. And I buried the lead here. It will be Andrew Luck going against Derek Anderson, who they pulled off the street to make sure that Peterman didn't have to embarrass himself again. Yeah, I mean, at least the receivers will have someone that can get the ball halfway down the field. But
I heard one commentator, Chris. I heard one commentator say that the Bills actually went into a nursing home and found Derek Anderson and suited him up for this game.
I heard about this. I was listening to this on a different podcast today. He plays like 50 hours of golf. No, he does. It's a true story. He plays like he just goes out, retired rich guy, and plays golf. So they pulled off the golf course, and I think this is a pretty easy one. Unless I'm going with the Colts here.
The Bills lead the series 37-31 and a tie overall. Both teams are bad.
Bills are 2-4 right
now. I won't do it for every game. Okay, the Bills are 2-4 right now, and the Colts are 1-5. Josh Allen, he left Sunday's game, of course. He left the third quarter with an elbow injury, and they don't know if he's gonna. Right now they're not saying anything about surgery on it. Andrew Luck has 8 interceptions. He's tied for the most in the league through 6 games this season. The red zone defense held up well versus the Jets last week. That's the Colts. They stopped them 5 out of 6 times, and the Jets had to settle for field goals. I think they made 7 field goals in that game. I believe also that the Colts have been close in every game, though. I think every game has been like within a touchdown or so. But who do I want in this game? I'm going to go with the Colts at home because they're at home, and of course the Bills are with a new quarterback. I think the Colts are due to win one here, and so I'm going to go with the Colts.
Even though the Bills have done well for our buddy Mr. Hirsch and for some other people who've bet on the Bills a few times this year, I don't think I'm going to pick the Bills for the rest of the season. I can't think of a situation looking at schedules where I would feel comfortable taking the Bills. So I think I'm out on the Bills, but they've pulled off some pretty amazing games. That we'll talk about that Minnesota upset for a while. So kudos.
You're going to ride with the Colts. You're going to ride the Colts with me here.
Oh yeah, I'm good taking the Colts. Yeah, I mentioned that right off the bat. Yeah, that game took longer than it should have. Detroit and Miami. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Detroit Lions going against Miami, who is coming off of a big win, a big upset at home. Miami's at home again. Detroit plays very badly on the road. We all know, especially outdoors. Vegas has the Lions up by 3 in this game, so they weren't super impressed with that win over the Bears. They kind of think they see it the way that I saw it, and that it was a trap game for the Bears. And if you play that game 10 times, Bears will probably win 7 or 8 of them. So looking at that, I think that the Lions have motivation. They're kind of getting to a point now where the season's going to slip away from them if they don't start winning a little bit more. And a couple of tough losses. Dolphins could be the perfect place to bounce back. So I'm going to go with the Lions.
I think so the Lions are coming off a bye. So they've had extra time to prepare for this. We have Brock Osweiler going. He's starting another game because Tannehill is still out with a shoulder issue. and maybe out next week as well. The Lions are their pass defense is ranked seventh at 222 yards per game average. So, but I think the what's going to happen is the Dolphins are going to try and gash them on the ground with Frank Gore again. They ran for 158 yards versus the Bears, and Frank Gore had 101 yards on 15 carries, as I said earlier. He also added one reception for 18 yards, and you had Kenyon Drake, who had 57 yards on 13 carries and 4 receptions for 21 yards. So I think that's what you're going to see coming from the Dolphins. Question is, can the Lions stop them on the ground? That's the problem with the Lions, is that they struggle with the run. They're giving up. They're the third worst. They're giving up 145.8 yards per game on the ground. Surprise, surprise. That's the Lions we know. The Lions have not won a road game this year. So you already said how bad they are on the road, but they haven't won a road game this year. And the Dolphins are 3-0 at home this season. So I think you know where I'm going on this. Can you tell where I'm going on this?
Going back to the well and picking your fins?
No, I'm going to go just the opposite. I would say the Lions are going to win their first road game. They're going to win their first road game against the Dolphins. I don't think the temperature in Miami is going to be a factor in this game. We're in October now, and we're deep into October. And I think that it's going to be enough that the Lions have this bye. They're able to prepare for Osweiler. They're not going to be surprised like possibly the Bears were with a last-minute replacement. So again, it comes down to stopping that run. But I'm going to go with the Lions in this one. I think we're going to have 3-3 Lions at the end of this, and a 4-3 Dolphins team.
Okay. We'll stay. Two teams that are kind of looks like they've, after a rough start of the season, kind of figured some things out and are moving in the right direction. Minnesota is going into the Meadowlands to play the Jets. We can talk a little bit about Baker Mayfield a little bit later, but one of the rookies who has really impressed, especially the last 2 weeks, is Sam Darnold. I think he's looking the best of them so far, and we'll get to Baker Mayfield, but he's kind of really fallen off recently. And I think that you see the opposite. I think you see Sam Darnold starting to kind of figure things out there in New York. Minnesota, obviously, kind of the wheels came off. We had some problems emotionally within the locker room, and mental illness of coworkers, of losing a game at home to Buffalo. I mean, it's been a tough season for the Vikings to get started, and it looked kind of bad, especially after they followed the Buffalo loss up with giving up more points than any Zimmer team has in Minnesota to the Los Angeles Rams. So this week, they've started to come back. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'll say it again, Chris.
I said that they've started to come back a bit, and you're starting to see Minnesota play a little bit better, especially in the passing game. The Cousins, Case Keenum argument looks to be won by Cousins so far this year. So I think that Minnesota is going to keep that rolling. And even though the Jets are looking good and they're becoming respectable at least, I think that Minnesota just has too many weapons. And I'm going to pick the Vikings to beat them by at least 6 or more.
Okay. I'm sorry I interrupted you. I was having problems hearing you on
no problem.
Technical issue. Excuse me. Folks. The Vikings will face a rookie quarterback for the second straight game. Last week it was they confounded Josh Rosen. Okay, they're facing Sam Darnold. Darnold threw for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns versus the Colts last game. And the Jets only converted 5 or 6, as I said, trips to the end zone, or to the red zone, versus the Colts, and had to settle for 7 field goals. Vikings, Delvin Cook missed last game after re-aggravating his hamstring. But Latavius Murray ran for a career-high 155 yards on the Cards. I'm stalling on this one. We have the Vikings visiting the Jets, and I know who I want. Okay. The Jets defense is second in takeaways, by the way, 15 through 6 games. I'm going to go with the Vikings because I think they're just a better team overall. The Jets are still trying to find their way with a young quarterback. I think that Vikings defense will rise up and confuse Darnold and have their way with him. And in the meantime, Cousins is making me eat crow, or rather, I should say, Case Keenum is making me eat crow about the switching the quarterbacks for the Vikings because Cousins is a solid quarterback and he's making it happen. So I'm going to stay with the Vikings against the Jets. All of that said, all that long-winded conversation.
Well,
that's long drawn out.
Part of the show for us is talking through these games so we can, feel good about our picks because once they're in, they're etched in stone. Yeah. So next we're going to go to Carolina and Philadelphia, and this is another team. A lot of those teams in the South are this way, but they have problems traveling so far. The game last week against the Redskins was not their best performance of the year by far. I mean, I think they're better than what they showed. And another team that's starting to put it together is the Eagles. That run defense is stout, pass rush is stout, and Wentz is starting to get his sea legs back. So healthy Alshon Jeffrey, healthy Zach Ertz, healthy Nelson Aguilar. They're not healthy at running back. We've talked about that a bit, but Smallwood and Corey Clement seem to be more than enough for the job last week. I like the Panthers this year. I think they're going to do really well at home, but for some reason they're kind of punching from their heels when they're playing on the road. So I think that the Eagles take this down because of the home field advantage. But I think it's a close game.
I think it's a close game, and I think that what needs to be factored in also is that the Eagles' offensive line is not healthy. Left tackle Jason Peters suffered a torn biceps muscle, but may still play as last I saw. He may still play this game. They had a mini bye after playing last Thursday. But even if he plays, he's not going to be at full strength. He's not going to be 100%, especially in upper body. What's happening in this game, though, is you got the Panthers with the fourth-ranked offense, or running ground attack, I should say. Fourth-ranked ground attack at 139.4 yards per game against the second-ranked run defense of the Eagles at 79.8 yards per game. And as the Panthers were sloppy last week, they had 3 turnovers, one by Cam Newton, the interception, and DJ Moore, the rookie wide receiver, fumbled twice. So if for the Panthers to have any chance in this game, they're going to have to secure that ball and take care of it. This one is the hardest one for me. And the reason that I'm going with the Eagles, and the reason I'm going with Eagles is that they're at home. And like you said, they are coming together. They're showing signs of coming together. But I want to remind you, as I said last podcast, is that the Panthers, Cam Newton has had his best career success versus the NFC East teams. And he came up short last week against the Skins. I'm feeling like he might pull this one out, but I don't see enough to make me believe and switch my pick, so I'm going to stay with the Eagles.
Okay. So I think we're both sticking with the Eagles there. So there's another game of 2 teams that have just been awful recently, and we're going to try and see which one we dislike least. Why don't you start this one off with Cleveland and Tampa
Bay? Okay. Browns and the Bucks. Okay. So Mike Smith, the defensive coordinator, was fired for the Bucks. The Bucks have given up. The defense has given up 400 yards in 20 games under Smith, most in the NFL. Now, linebacker coach Mark Duffer will replace him as the interim DC. Last week, the unit gave up 416 yards in the loss to the Falcons. 346 passing, 70 rushing. Does it make a difference in this week's game? I don't see a quick turnaround. The Bucks defense has just been awful. So I don't know if that's, scheming, if that's, having the wrong personnel in place. But I think the Browns offense, they're second in yards per game. I think they're going to go into Tampa Bay and grab a win here. Browns defense gave up 246 yards on the ground against the Chargers last week, but that was the Chargers. Yeah, I think Baker Mayfield is going to have just enough to take care of this Bucks team, especially with Jameis Winston, who did have like a lot of yards, but still mistakes. I think that quarterback controversy is not squashed yet as far as Fitzmagic and possibly taking over from Winston if he doesn't get things shored up there. But I go with the Browns in this one.
Yeah, I've not been impressed with what the Browns have done. I think that Jameis came back last week and showed that he can really move that team. You have everyone healthy. I think there's just a lot of weapons on that team. I think what I'm worried about with the Browns is they have the talent and things, but as the season goes along, people start to learn your tendencies. They do a lot of film work, and it's about teams that continuously evolve throughout the season. And as we've talked about many times on the show, I think that's the worst coaching staff in the world. I really like what they've done from the front office as far as the players they've picked up. I think that they have a lot going for them, but I think that they have the worst possible coach in that situation. So because of that, I think that Tampa Bay is going to be just too much for him. I think this game's going to shoot out a bit. And I think that Baker has taken 3 steps back from his first game and a half when he came in. So with that said, I'm going to go with Tampa Bay.
You're going with Tampa Bay. Oh, by the way, do you want to give me your opinion of the trade that just went down with Carlos Hyde?
Why don't you tell us about it, and I'll tell you what I think about it.
Okay, Carlos Hyde was traded to the Jaguars, I believe, for a 5th round pick. And of course, the Jaguars, Leonard Fournette is not on the field. They're having trouble getting him on the field. And so they have Carlos Hyde there now to hopefully give that offense, that running game, a little jolt because they need it.
I love the move.
Say that again?
I said I love that move.
I was okay. Yeah, I was going to say, as looking at the Browns, as an AFC North foe, I'm against everybody except my Ravens. Okay, but the Browns, I'm pulling for until they really get to be a problem. And then I'll hate them again, as I said on the previous podcast. But I've been pulling for the Browns to get better and make and be competitive in this division. And it always comes down to some silly move that they make that I said, they don't get it yet. That front office just doesn't get it yet. I think they got it here because now they give Nick Chubb a chance. And here's the key to it. I don't think the Browns are serious about winning anything this season. I think they're focused on getting better. Because if you weren't focused on if you were focused on winning now, you would make this move. You would keep your strength with Carlos Hyde, and then have Nick Chubb come up next season. But they're going to put Nick Chubb at the front right now, and have him develop and see what he can do. And I think this is a great move. I think it's a great move. It's not, I understand to a degree what happened with the Josh Gordon thing. Josh Gordon, they were trying to unload him before, and his history, and you just can't count on the guy. And so, trading him off, I could see that, but then I'm going but if he's back, you're giving up a big weapon there, But now that I'm thinking that this team is actually just trying to get better this season and not, don't have this fantasy about winning anything. I can go along with that because I think that's more realistic goal. And so I like this move too. I think that it's going to help the Jaguars, and I think it's going to overall in the long run help the Browns, like I said, with Nick Chubb.
All right, well, we looked at one side of that trade. Let's go to the game that has the other. Let's talk about the aforementioned Jaguars and Texans. So why don't you keep going on what you're talking about and tell us how you think this is going to work out for the Jags as far as adding this depth.
Okay, so like I said, Leonard Fournette is not going to. They can't get him on the field. The question was, and I still don't get it, and I'm still going to keep preaching this. Why did you give Blake Bortles your blessing at quarterback? Give him an extension when you had other options out there. You could have drafted another quarterback. Okay, so you're not sure, but you want to make sure about Blake Bortles before you pull the plug on him. You could have signed. Well, same thing, I guess. You could have signed one of these free agents or gone after one of these free agents, but you gave your blessings to Blake Bortles, and he showed last week that he's not the guy, or you can't depend on him, especially when your Jaguars have given up 70 points in the last 2 games. And that was too old. The Cowboys and the Chiefs, or they played the Chiefs first and then the Cowboys. And I'm looking at the Jaguars now. Those were road games. I'm looking at the Jaguars to get back home and get well with that defense. I can't believe that defense is that bad. I will say that if you listen real hard, Chris, can you hear that? That's Jalen Ramsey shutting his mouth. Total silence. Finally, after all that yapping, it's nice to hear somebody knows when to shut up, because you have nothing to talk about with the play of that defense. Texans, on the other hand, have a 3-game winning streak. They're squeaked out, but they're squeaked out wins. All their games have been decided, I believe, by 7 points or less. And so they're on a 3-game winning streak. They started the season 0-3, and now they're 3-3. The Jags have gone just the opposite direction. They started the season 3-1, and now they're 3-3, and they're both tied with Tennessee in as for the division lead. I'm going with the Jags in this one. I think the Jags have, I think, like I said, home cooking is going to help them pull this one out against the Texans. Because I believe that if anything, is going to be another close game, and I think that Jags defense is going to rise up and get better here. I'm not so sure about the offense, but and by the way, Carlos Hyde is not expected to play this game, of course, because of how late in the week this deal went down. But I do think that the Jags can pull one out at home against the Texans. So that's where I'm going, Jags.
Okay, yeah, me too. You kind of broke it all down. I think Leonard Fournette has proven, just like he did in college, he has trouble staying on the field. And when Leonard Fournette is off, you have TJ Yeldon behind him. They lose a whole dimension of that kind of physical running game that they don't have. And when Fournette is out for chunks of time, I think they're really missing how they want to play ball. So Hyde can do that for him. It's another injury-prone running back, but I guess maybe if you have 2 of them and you stick them together, they can make a healthy back.
They can like one Band-Aid, one big Band-Aid here.
Yeah. But
by the way, both. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I'm going with the Jags, and I think that they're going to do it through the air this week.
Yeah, both teams have trouble scoring, TDs on offense, and they both have the same amount of TDs, actually 11 TDs, in the first 6 games, and the series is led by the Texans 19-13. I'm saying that because this is the division rival.
Okay. So here it comes. We can let Baltimore Blowing Wax poetic here and kind of give us an in-depth insight into New Orleans going into Baltimore.
This game originally worried me because it's Drew Brees going up against the Ravens defense. Now the Ravens just come off a 3-game road trip. Well, they weren't traveling the whole time, but you know what I mean. 3 games straight on the road. So they finally get back home, and I'm afraid of them relaxing just a little bit too much. Hopefully they're not going to relax, knowing that Drew Brees is coming in looking for his 500th touchdown, which he will get, by the way. I hope he gets it in the first half and not the second half. I hope the Ravens can keep their lockdown. No touchdowns in the second half so far this season for that Ravens defense. Now, here's an interesting point that I don't know if you know or not. Ravens are the only team that Drew Brees has not won against. He's 0-4 against the Ravens. And It's going to be hard because the Saints offense is, I mean, first of all, they're coming off a bye, so they've had some rest. They're coming in fresh. As I said, the Ravens are coming off the road. I'm not making excuses. I think the Ravens are going to take this game because of their defense. And I think the Saints defense is not playing up to par like they did last year. They are playing strong against the run, but their pass defense is a sieve. And I think Flacco is going to pick them apart with Smokey Brown, John Smokey Brown, and Willie Snead, and of course Crabtree, and the tight ends. And I think Flacco, and overall, what I'm saying is Flacco has too many weapons to tank this game against that defense. And we know that the Saints aren't the same team outside of the dome as they are in the dome. If this was being played in New Orleans, I would probably have a different take on it. It's being played in Baltimore, and if the weather takes a turn and it's another one of those dampers, rainy. Joe thrives in rainy weather. He's proven that this season so far. His strongest games have been in the elements. They don't bother his throw. He has a tight spiral, a strong arm, and he's thrown through wind gust storms and been effective there. So all of that said, I think I'm going to stick with my Ravens. I think it's going to be somewhere in the 20s between both of these teams. And it's probably going to come down to a Justin Tucker field goal. But I'm picking my Ravens to take this one in Baltimore.
So there's some stats about how just almost unbeatable the Saints are coming out of a bye. And then there's a bunch of good stats about the Ravens being at home. I think they have the best defense in the league right now. But that Sean Payton and Drew Brees coming off the bye and having 2 weeks to plan for a team, I think this game's going to be a really good game. I think that I agree with you on everything you said about Flacco. That's why I think that they are going to have some success. But I think that Drew's going to come back. I think this might be a special season for the Saints. I'm starting to like them more and more coming out in the NFC, or at least being the team that goes up against the Rams. Because if anyone can shoot them out, that's going to be a fun game to watch. So I'm actually going to say that the Saints go into Baltimore and kind of put their stamp on the league as saying, hey, you know what, Chiefs are good, so are the Rams, but we'll prove it week in, week out that we belong in that same conversation. So I'm actually going to go with the Saints on this.
Two, okay. Drew Brees, by the way, has 77.9% completion rating, and he's ranked first.
Yeah,
and highest QB rating at 122.3. So yes, it's going to be a challenge for that defense, but I think, and don't get me wrong, this is not Tennessee. We're not going to see another 11 sack day. As a matter of fact, if the Drew Brees is a quick release, so if the Ravens get to him once or twice, that's a bonus. But the thing is that they don't have to get to him. All they have to do is disrupt him, force him into some turnovers, force him into some bad decisions by hurrying his passes.
That's a great offensive line, great running back tandem, great group of receivers, and probably the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
But they're not going to run against. They're not going to run against the Ravens. Let's put that to rest right now.
Well,
they're not going to run against.
Well, you might. I mean, running against just being able to pick up 3-4 yards on good running downs can be enough.
Keeping them honest, right?
Yeah, it's keeping them honest, and they definitely have the two backs to do that with. The Ravens haven't faced anything like what they're going to face on Sunday.
I agree. It's going to be a test.
Yeah, it should be. But it should be a great game to watch. That'll be the game that I'll be watching for sure. Coming up this next week. A game that I will not be watching, that's for sure, is the Cowboys and the Redskins.
Why not?
Two teams I totally dislike. I want them. If there's someone they could both lose, not a tie, like they both lose, I'd be happy. But the Dallas did do me right, and I think it's going to start to see the narrative pick up. From your different places where you get the NFL news, is that Cowboys D is good, and that's why I made that pick last week against the Jags. Is I just didn't think that Blake Bortles was going to be able to do anything, and that offensive line is just trash for the Jags right now. They're really banged up, and that Dallas pass rush is vicious. That's what I think is going to be the problem for Washington. They also have a beat up offensive line, and I think that pass rush is just going to be a little too much for them. The question is, what do you do to stop Zeke? And I think that they've kind of decided that they're just going to find ways to throw him the ball, hand him the ball. I mean, his usage is off the charts over the last few games. I just can't pick the Redskins ever. So even though this game's in Washington, I think that the defense, the pass rush, and a heavy dose of Zeke helped the Cowboys pull this out.
Well, if you remember what I said last podcast about the Cowboys and the key to winning that game against the Jaguars was to run the ball, use Zeke, feed Zeke, and to keep keep Dak rolling out of the pocket. So we had a mobile Dak Prescott, very effective against the Jaguars defense. They scored 40 points on that defense, 40 points. The Skins, on the other hand, had 3 takeaways against the Panthers, as we mentioned earlier last week. The Skins are at home, and this is a division game. The overall series is Cowboys lead at 70-44, and they tied twice. Okay, so got it in. I see. By the way, the Skins haven't won consecutive games this season, and they won last week. So wisdom would tell you, if you want to keep the pattern going, not to pick the Skins this week. But of course, I'm a rebel, and I'm going to go against that. I'm going to go with the Skins at home against the Cowboys because, one, I don't think it's the same Cowboys team on the road. They're going to have to prove it to me. And I'm willing to take that chance that they're still not there. And, if they are there, they have to prove it to me, and then I'll admit I'm wrong next week. But I'm going with the Skins.
All righty. So the next game, I think we both know who we're going to pick to win the game. But I just want to say that I think Beathard has really stepped up and shown that he's a tough guy.
Yeah.
There was something where the coach of the Shanahan, he said that Beathard reminds him a lot of Kirk Cousins. Because don't forget, Shanahan drafted Kirk Cousins when he was in Washington, and kind of is the one that kept him around and really worked with him, thinking that he was going to be better than Griffin. You saw those kind of comparisons, and he even came out and said he reminds me of Kirk Cousins. So I just want to say how impressed I am, and I think that this game is going to go into a shootout mode, which I know a lot of people think the Rams are just going to smash. I think this gets a little bit closer than people think. The Rams are going to win, obviously, but I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch. Lots of fireworks.
Yeah, you know what? I think that I'm picking the Rams to win this, but I wouldn't be surprised if 49ers actually came out with this one. I liked what I saw from CJ Beathard at quarterback last week.
So you're going to go ahead and pick the Niners?
No, I'm picking the Rams. I'm staying with the Rams, but I'm saying that, that this is a division game. And as you know, these division games, anything can happen. I could see the Rams going and taking the 49ers too lightly in this game. I could see Beathard matching or even having even a better game than he had last week against the Packers. Maybe he's, maybe this is a type of team that plays up to their opponent rather than, having their opponent play down to them. Now, the Rams, they're top-ranked offense, and the 49ers have the 26th ranked passing defense. So in all wisdom here, you would say that, the Rams are going to win this game, and that's what I'm going with. I'm going to go with the Rams until the 49ers show me more. I'm going to go with the Rams. I mean, Jared Goff had a bad game last week, and Todd Gurley stepped up and took it over. And they're just too deep on offense, I think, for any team for me to pick against them on this kind of a matchup. But all that being said, I give some glory to the 49ers. I think the 49ers have a future quarterback here if he's consistent. 16 for 23 attempts, completed 69.6%. I'm gonna go with the 40. Go with the Rams, even though the 49ers lead the series. 69-65, 3 ties. I'm gonna go with the Rams. Rams win this one.
So real quick, my question to the people who quote those series things: if the series goes back farther than like the current coach and quarterback, does it really matter?
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm just throwing it out there for fun.
I got you.
I saw it in my research, and I decided to jot it down in my notes. So I had to justify writing it.
Well, it is different. Like the difference, in how far some of those rivalries go back. And then you have like the Jaguars and the Texans. It's like 3 games, 4 games. Yeah. All right.
Or like the Patriots and not the Patriots, the Saints and the Ravens have only played like something like 5 or 6 times or something. I don't know, something like that. They don't play that often.
Yeah, that's too bad. Good offense, good defense is always good to see. Okay, so we're both on the Rams there. That's pretty easy. Okay, how about the Bengals going into KC? Why don't you take this one since you're the Bengals expert?
That's interesting to me. That was very interesting to me because you have the Chiefs coming off their first loss in New England. Mahomes made a couple of mistakes in the first half, and that's a rookie, well, not a rookie, but a young quarterback learning. He has a chance to learn. Don't desperately throw the ball and force it into coverage. He was humbled a little bit with those 2 interceptions. He was reckless with his throws. He came back in the second half, made it a game, and it went all the way down to the end against the GOAT, Brady. I think the Chiefs being home, Arrowhead Stadium during the regular season is hard to win in. The Bengals are coming off their loss to the Steelers, heartbreaking last seconds play, or last few seconds play, or whatever it is, in the last minute. Now they felt my pain that I felt, or at least part of my pain that I felt at the end of last season when they did it to us. They had it done to them. That touchdown to Antonio, to Brown. I do want to say, as a side note, that in my opinion, Vontaze Burfict should be suspended indefinitely. He's a dirty player. He hasn't learned. He continues to go outside of the rules, and he tries to hurt people. His throwing of the elbow and shoulders against the opponent's heads is just inexcusable. And I think that Marvin Lewis should go with him because Marvin Lewis should have a handle on this. He should be stopping this. He's not. Apparently, he's letting it go. Okay, that's my rant on that team. The Bengals, getting back to the game, both teams are coming off coming off close game losses in the final minutes. So they were both emotional losses. I'm going to go with the Chiefs at home. That Bengals defense ranks 28th. The pass defense ranks 28th, and their overall defense is allowing 400 plus yards per game. On the other hand, the Chiefs defense is the worst in the NFL, yielding out 468.2 yards per game and 28.7 points per game, and they're ranked 27th. So it's going to be a shootout. I think, though, that I believe in the Chiefs' offense more than I believe in the Bengals' offense, especially when the Bengals are on the road. I think the Chiefs are going to go 6-1. Bengals are going to go 4-3, which will be great for me and the standings. If my pick of the Ravens beating the Saints, that'll put the Ravens in sole possession of first place. And that's my pick. That's my prediction.
I think people are gonna go for your Ravens more than you think. I just have a really simple rule: don't bet against a decent Chiefs team in Arrowhead. Simple as that. You've gone through a lot of the good stats and things, but for me, it's just don't pick the Chiefs don't pick against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. It just never works out the way anyone would ever want. Especially the turnover. Somehow that noise gives the defense an extra step, a little more pressure, more fumbles. It's usually crappy weather. It's loud. It's one of the best home fields in the NFL, and I think that in addition to all the things that you mentioned, there's just going to be too much, and the Chiefs are going to win this game. Finally, another two teams that have kind of underwhelmed this year on the defensive side of the ball, but the Falcons have been great on the offensive side of the ball. Giants are up and down, except for the fact that proving all the haters that Saquon Barkley was worth that high draft pick. Falcons and Giants on Monday night. I think this is really simple. This is Matty Ice on the carpet at home. The Giants have no answer for much worse defense or offenses, even at home. From their own crowd, they haven't really been able to stop anybody. And now they're going into the dome in Atlanta. I don't see any way that the Giants pull this one out. I think it might even get a little bit out of hand. I think that I would pound the over on this and take the Falcons. I think that they have you can give up some points here. I think that they win by at least 10 points.
I don't think the Giants have an offense that's going to give the Falcons any trouble, even with that bad defense that they have, that banged up, injured bad defense that they have. I go with you. I'm going with the Falcons. Eli Manning only has 4 touchdowns through 6 games. They are getting tight end Evan Ingram back. They're expected, at least he's expected to come back from a knee injury in this game, so he'll have another weapon. But I would tell you to look out for OBJ. Excuse me, OBJ to after his statement about not liking water, and that's why he cramps up all the time. He needs to get an IV during the game because he doesn't like water. He doesn't like drinking water. So I would expect that if he gets a touchdown or makes a big play, that he's going to run to the sideline and hump the water cooler and then get on his knee the next time and propose to it like he did with the kicker's net. Mr. Drama, that guy, don't get me started on him. But the Falcons broke their 3-game losing streak against the Bucs last week. And I think they're going to keep going and get a win here at home. As I said, I don't see how they're going to match up. The Falcons do have a bunch of new injuries. The kicker, Matt Bryan, is out. He got a hamstring injury. Calvin Ridley has an ankle injury, and Mohamed Sanu, I think they're both questionable. So Mohamed Sanu has a hip injury. So they're going to be weakened on the offense a bit, but I still think that they're gotten too many weapons. They're at home. Matty on the carpet is going to reign.
Yeah, just be a little too much for him. I agree with you there. Well, that's it, folks. We have our picks up. You can find us at Knuckpods on both Twitter and Facebook. Knucklehead Podcast Network. Or Knucklehead Pod Network, on YouTube. And knuckleheadpods@gmail.com if you want to write us and ask us any questions, if you want to hear about anything. We'll be live next Tuesday on Mancini Sports on Blog Talk Radio. That's blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports. And look forward to it. Hopefully, wish me luck, wish Baltimore Blaine luck. At least we'll try and take down some of the other guys. We both have a ways to go because we did not start the season not too well. But
we can do it. We can do it.
I like my picks this week. I feel good about most of them, so I'm moving forward. I think I'm gonna have a really good week.
What was I? 12-3. Was I 12-3 last week?
11 and something. Now it's 10. So we got first and second place. So the show at least was respectable last week. All right, folks. For Baltimore Blaine, this is Chris Rose signing off. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.